Good morning, everybody. It's Brian of Brian's Budget Bonsai, and we are taking Sophie for a walk. It's only about 8:45 in the morning. It's already hot and humid here. We're expected to have temperatures approaching 100 degrees again today. Yesterday, I pretty much spent the entire time in my air-conditioned man cave, but listening to Dave's bonsai expo yesterday while I repaired a used bike that I got at Goodwill for about 20 bucks, and finally got it working. A couple bloody knuckles later and a lot of dirty greasy stuff underneath my fingernails, but got myself a brand new, well, new to me, 15-speed bicycle that hopefully I can use that to get a little bit more exercise. So right now we're just taking Sophie girl here. There's Sophie. Hey, Sophie girl. Yeah. How you doing? So when we get back from the walk, going to water everything and then pick out a bonsai to work on today. Got a couple of ideas. So we'll see what we can find out to work on a little bit. There's lots of stuff that needs attention. Always stuff that needs attention. All right, so see in a little bit, you'll see the bike I mentioned that I spent the whole afternoon yesterday kind of repairing and basically kind of cannibalizing parts and bells and whistles that I had put on a previous bike, which was a 1-speed, which was a very good bike, but this is the Piedmont, not the coast, and there's hills, and I needed something with gears. Yes, I know it's technically a woman's bike, but you know, hey, I never understood the need for having something right across there in very precarious position for dudes. Behind that is my wife's bike, and again, also a thrift store find. I think we got that at Second Chance, and we got the garage sale little bike pedal mount thing that you can use it as a exercise bike, stationary bike then. Here you see my thrift store haul. Some things from Goodwill, some things from Second Chance, which is a local thrift store that supports, helps fund domestic violence shelters, which is a good cause. Always go to those local thrift stores if you can. So got this. This is resin. Doesn't have any drainage in there, but we will know how to fix that. I just like the volume of this. Give you a lot of deep roots and soil in there, and I know, and exposed to the light, all the paint on this is going to fade eventually. This is a serving tray in the shape of a jalapeno, but I thought that this would be like a good place for a tree here, and this would be like a little water feature here. And to go along with him, look at that, I got this guy. Now this guy could sit right here and be fishing in there. Ooh, sorry, dude. And to help in that situation, I actually made him a new fishing pole like that, and I actually made a little wire fish for him to fish in. So if he's right here like that, his fish can be in the water using just some bonsai wire. So that, and I also got this. This is for the video aspect of my hobby here. A nice little small tripod, which I'm going to start using because as you can see that just holding the phone can sometimes be a little clumsy, and also me swinging the full-size tripod around is also sometimes clumsy. I thought I'd give you guys a few quick updates. This is the lemons that I said I was going to put in boot trays. The boot tray is now underneath it. You'll also see the Norfolk Island pine has got its home here, and it's got a lot more space to get some light down to the lower branches, or not that there's any lower branches left. Here are some of the ficuses, including the new little ficus forest that I made in their home. Here is the triple trunk elm that I pruned up, and you can see that it's nicely leafed back out again. The fox elder isn't leafed out, but that was just a couple days ago, so we can't expect that yet. Here's my crepe myrtle in bloom. It's looking really nice. Here's one of the peaches that I pruned up. It's got its lazy frog in it, and you see it's got some nice new growth on it. That's looking good. I don't know if I pruned this particular sweet gum with you guys. I don't think so, but this is one that I did prune up this year, and you can see that it's got some nice small leaves. I do remember having, I think it was Dave of Dreaming of Bonsai asked me if whether or not I could get the sweet gums to reduce their leaf size, and you can see that they've gone from like this size here or larger down to this size, which is a nice reduction. Here is one of the decorative peaches that I pruned up, and actually this is the one that I actually repotted as well. See, it's got a bunch of new growth on it. Here is the other peach that I pruned up and even wired, and you can see it's out. It's a little bit more sun. It's not underneath the shade cloth, but you can see that I've got new growth at the tips. I've got some new growth down here. So this is looking a little bit more peaked. It wasn't growing. I don't think it's growing back as fast. And see, not all of them are having new growth on there. So we'll have to see what this one does. Over here we see a couple of other peaches that I pruned. This one is another one of the ones that I got from the root base suckers. I rooted those. That you see has got some new growth on it. Right next to it are the ones that were the seedlings of the fruit that the decorative peach grew from. And you can see that those don't look as happy about being pruned. So that might be a difference between the hardier rootstock sucker versus the seedlings from the fruit of the decorative one. Sometimes the ornamental varieties are not as sturdy, which is why they are grafted onto rootstock. So say this is a good way to kind of figure out, okay, what survives, what doesn't survive, and when it's free, you can experiment. Next to that, you can see the sweet gum. I know this is the sweet gum that I pruned, I think, in one of my earlier videos. The sweet gum gets a sweet cut, or I think is what I call it. You see, it's leafed out like crazy. And again, some of the leaves these are like some of the older leaves here compared to some of the older leaves compared to some of the newer leaves. The newer leaves are smaller in size, so we are getting some leaf reduction. But again, it was more than happy to get its hair cut. Above that, you'll see these are my maple forests, and they responded very well to their pruning and have put out new growth pretty much everywhere. You can see, we got some smaller growth up there. The leaf reduction in this with the new growth is acceptable. This is the back side of my elm forest in the concrete pot that was inspired by James Den, who was one of the speakers at yesterday's Bonsai Expo. This is actually its second flush of growth. I pruned this up earlier in the year before I started the Bonsai channel, and it is just crazy. It's just a big blob. Also, this is a good thing from the back. You can see that I have an imposter When you're using basically things you dig out of your backyard as volunteers, you kind of assume things are one thing. Whatever this is not the same as these. This is the elms. This is something that when it was young looked like an elm. It may be a beech tree because last fall it held its leaves on, after everything else had lost its leaves in the fall. These ones had turned kind of like a very light pale yellow, and those leaves stayed on, which was my first indication that this just wasn't a large leaf elm, but an imposter, and possibly a beech. I don't know, but we're going to eventually dig that out and give it its own pot and see what it turns into. But I want to find another elm to take its place, and I've got a few little volunteers here and there in the garden that may suffice for that. But yeah, that goes all the way up to here, to the top of the shade cloth. Another candidate for the pruning today, working today, are some of my Portulacaria afras, or elephant trees. They have gotten really, really long and leggy, and they could probably stand a pruning. But you know what, I think I want to stick to my original plan. I am going to start with my Portulacaria afra forest and just get it cut back. Alas, poor Yorick. I knew him, Horatio, a fellow of infinite jest, of most excellent fancy. He hath borne me upon his back 1,000 times, and now how abhorrent in my imagination it is. Well, I couldn't resist a good, Yorick reference. And I think we should call this guy Yorick. This is one of my creations with just a bunch of Portulacaria cuttings, and all of this that you see here, all of this and more is basically cuttings from the original larger tree that you see back here. I've actually got this forced in backwards right now, so I'm going to just trim this back here. Portulacaria do make very good bonsai. First of all, they're very drought tolerant, so you can neglect them, but that you also, if you neglect them, they get very long and leggy, and they look much better when you do routine pruning on them, which of course I have been neglectful of. So with most of my bonsais, they do have to survive my benevolent neglect. Here's probably the proper front of this tree here. You see our primary tree, which, this is the mother of all the other cuttings here. And some of the thicker cuttings I've got in front. I've got a little space for the elephant. And what we're going to do is, just like the other things, we're going to try to prune back as far as we can to leave some too, but because these have gotten a little leggy, and they will bud back very easily off of bare branches, I may cut back even further on this to try to see if I can get back budding on some of this stuff. Go back to leaf scars and hope for the best. Again, I got to be a little more diligent about just going back and just giving these things light prunings frequently, and that's where you get the dense growth that most of us are looking for on this. But okay, so we're all pruned up now. Looks a lot better. You can see the trunks, you can see the definition between the trees. I'm hoping that eventually what we're going to see is this whole area over here becoming, a very dense canopy over here with the one main tree kind of rising up above them with all the little parent tree and all the seedlings or branches that come up out of there. Yeah, elephant, of course, kind of grazing in this area here. One of the things I wanted to show you right here is we do have one that seems to have fallen down. And this is a fairly easy fix. I wanted to stand back up, but because these things have very minimal amount of roots, I can literally just loosen the soil a little bit in that area and kind of shove it back upright and take a rock and put it right there. In fact, we're going to push a little bit more of the soil on top of that. Again, I don't even have to get out the other fresh soil. Just push some of the loose soil from around there. And just stand it up like that. We're going to take another rock. These rocks were all in place when these were cuttings and kind of needed to be held up. But yeah, they don't need any more. They're mostly just kind of like decoration at this point. They're not being used to support the trees except for these two now is going to support that one. Alrighty, that's all for the forest, I think. Oh, and any and all of these cuttings will take very easily if you wanted to propagate these. You basically just strip a little bit of that in there, stick it in some dry soil. It's usually a good idea to let these ends dry out first before you put them in there so they don't rot out. And just put them into some soil. You don't even have to keep them humid or anything like that. Matter of fact, it's probably better that you don't. Oh, that kind of another good idea. No cut paste on any of these. We're going to let them air dry. We want them to seal themselves up, and I'm not going to add any water to this. Unlike a lot of the, the deciduous trees when I'm pruning them, I would, get them a good drink of water afterwards. Not for these. I want these things to actually dry out a little bit and seal their wounds. And also, of course, if it was kind of like a rainy part of the season or was expecting rain, I'd actually maybe keep this out of the rain for a while until those have sealed off and maybe even seeing a little bit of new growth. Let's see if Yorick can get a haircut now. One of the things I consistently forget to do is turn the air conditioner off while I'm filming. It's so hot out there and so comfortable in here to have the air conditioner on, and the AC is just kind of like background white noise. But there were a couple times during editing that I noticed, what is that noise in the background? The AC. So I turned it off for this one. And that way, when we are going along here, you can at least hear me. This is a smaller one. I'm going to not do the time lapse. I'm just going to kind of talk you through what we're doing. There are a few places where, I've got these leaves out here, but I really like to have growth a little further on. So here's a leaf scar, here's a leaf scar, here's one leaf. And one of the things about the Portulacaria afra, you can see that the leaves come off at 90 each time they come out at 90 degrees from the previous leaves. You can see that these are facing these way, these are facing this way, this is facing this way. And this is actually a nice example of the fact that these, see right here, little branches are starting to form. There are potential branch at each one of the bases of each of these leaves. So this is very good for directional pruning. I've got a branch that's going this way. If I want my next branches to go this way, you cut out the center, like that, in theory. There we go. And then your next branches are there. Now, however, if that was like, say, going towards a trunk or in the forest going towards another tree, and I had something else to prune back from, I prune back to there, and now my next branches are in this direction. So you can have like alternating 90 degrees to each other branch structure very easily on the Portulacaria. It's one that makes things so nice to work with, that, and very hard to have them die of lack of water. They do very well. They, of course, obviously don't do well with no water, but they do take drought pretty easily. They can be left irrigated during vacations. However, they do not like to be soaking wet. You have to have very good draining soil. If you live in a very rainy environment, or during the winter, of course during the winter they won't take a frost or a freeze. You have to have them inside, kept warm in the winter months. Even here in North Carolina, we get below freezing, we get frosts. We're in danger of frosts anywhere from about mid-November to mid-April. In fact, April 15th is our traditional last frost, which is very tempting if you're a gardener around here, because most of March and beginning of April feels like it is solidly spring. But I haven't lost any bonsais to impatience, but I've lost tomato plants to impatience, where you're like, oh, come on, I got to get these tomatoes in the ground. There's no way that it's been, 75, 80 degrees. There's no way we're going to get another frost. And then like on April 12th, you get a frost. So watch those last frost dates. They are not there as a suggestion. Of course, who knows how much these things will change. It's getting warmer. There's no doubt about that. The advancement of the palmetto bug into this area is one of the things that, since I've been here, I used to never see palmetto bugs unless you were down at the coast or, further south of here, South Carolina. If you're not familiar with the palmetto bug, think about a cockroach the size of your thumb. We got them around here now, a lot. So I used to never see them at all, and now I see them all the time. So I think that's, this is a smaller container. And again, since the angle of this, the water doesn't really run out very much. This is basically just like a plaster skull. Cut a hole in the center of it and carved in some cracks. And I originally had painted it to make it look weathered. And then the paint came off, and then the weathering did the rest. So this looks like an old weathered skull with plants growing out of the center of it. I think this was a Halloween decoration. Got it at Michael's probably about 5-6 years ago. And you can still see some of like the light green paint on here that I had done to kind of simulate like moss and dirt and stuff like that. But this has weathered on its own, and you can see it's slowly eroding. It's got a really rough texture on here, but I think that's contributed to the look of it being an ancient old skull. Alrighty, so that's all I'm going to do with these. I just wanted to make it look like Yorick had hair. Then we're going to be a show bonsai. I don't know, might make a halfway decent accent plant. What do you think the judges would think about that? Honestly, I don't do any of my bonsai with the intention of ever being judged by anyone but myself. And possibly you guys now. But yeah, these may never see a show table. I'm judgmental of myself enough. I don't need anyone else. Next, we basically just have a pot of cuttings. Again, nothing too fancy on this one. I'm just going to cut everything back. If you guys did watch the Bonsai Expo yesterday, I really liked it. There was a lot of good advice and information from a bunch of people in there. And I never got a chance to watch her channel before she kind of got rid of it. But Candace, who Dave has a lot of her trees, he did an interview with her. It was interesting, some of the things she said, you know, explaining, you know, how she got into bonsai, but also when she started getting into bonsai videos. She had said something along the lines of, you know, when you're doing a bonsai channel, you have to have enough material to make content. And I was like, oh yeah. I understand that. Sometimes I think I have, you know, I have plenty of material, but another gentleman who I forgot what his name was, he had mentioned something along the lines of not getting around to all of his stuff because he didn't want to work on something unless he was filming it, which I am starting to understand that too, where it's like, this needs to work, but do I have time to work on this while videoing? Not always. Not always. So there may be a few things, like if there's something that just needs like a 1 cut or a 2 cut, you know, I'm just going to grab a pair of scissors and do it, you know. I'm not going to bother whipping out a camera for something that's going to take me 15 seconds to do. I might not even take it off the bench. I have it sometimes just stood in front of a tree on the bench with a pair of pruners and start pruning away and just letting the cutoffs just land on the grass, and then next time I mow, they get chopped up in the lawnmower. Just a bunch of cuttings thrown in some bonsai soil and left to do what it's going to do. We do see there I have some with thicker trunks and some with thinner trunks, and we are having a little bit of a forced perspective where smaller trees are in the background, larger trees are in the front, to give the idea that this is closer, this is further away. That is a very low maintenance, easy way to kind of like have yourself a nice little forest. You could let these things grow like this for a while, and then maybe eventually say, you know, I don't want this forest, I want some of these to be individual plants. So you start, you know, digging them up. They're very easy to separate. Again, they don't have a very aggressive, extensive root structure. So, you know, taking these things apart and into individual trees would be a piece of cake. Okay, I found some more to work on here. Also, I neglected to include in my little thrift store haul this little platform. It's metal, and it's got looks like a tree trunk on the bottom. And I use this as kind of like a little plant stand if I want to have things with different elevation and stuff like that on the bench. I've got a few things there like that. Most of them ceramic. This is the first one I found that was metal. It's probably supposed to be like a cake stand or something like that, but it's going to be a bonsai stand for now. So what we're going to do with these, we're going to again just give these a quick little prune up, but also some of these smaller ones I wanted to show you guys. These little pots are just basically terracotta pots that I've painted. They've got very fine soil in them. And the reason why I wanted to show this is that one of the things from I saw yesterday, they were talking about the tripod challenge. I believe the gentleman who runs kind of like a kindred spirit, I guess, of mine, because his channel is Budget Bonsai. I'm Brian's Budget Bonsai. I'm trying to remember the man's name. He has a name. It's not like Tom or Dave or Jeff or Brian. But I'm drawing a blank on his name right now, so I apologize to. And he was talking about these little pots that he makes. And again, they're about this size. And so a tripod that he makes, a Portulacaria cutting, would make an excellent little thing to put into one of his tripods. So now we talked about tripod 2.0. Maybe I'll send him a message. Apologize for forgetting his name, but also say like, hey, you know what? I could probably find some something to put in a tripod with my Portulacarias. But this one here, I think I'm going to repot. It's in a small little bonsai pot that broke and has been glued back together again. But this side doesn't look too bad. And again, you can see that it's a nice little Mama size little forest here. But I have something kind of unique that I want to use this for. Right here, it's like a little resin radio, but it is actually a little planter. It had a smaller hole in there. I made it bigger because I do want good drainage in there. And I'm going to try to repot that last little bunch of Portulacaria out of that broken pot and into here. And so it doesn't take up very much more space on the bench, which at this point, bench space is becoming a issue that I have to make sure I address. All right, so I will prune up these things and repot into this, and then that ought to be it for today. Okay, so now you see we've got a nice little semi-rounded canopy, a little bit of spot for the elephant to go into, and we've got these cut back. Again, what we should see is where I've cut back to either bare branches or a few little ones. Again, missing them. The more you look, the more you find, right? There's always a little something extra to trim. But, where I've cut back, hopefully what we'll do is we'll see some more branching so that we'll have denser growth eventually. Ooh, that might have been nails on the chalkboard for a few of y'all folks. For me, it's styrofoam. Don't be scrunching any styrofoam around me. I'll crawl right out of my skin. But sorry if I got anybody's nerve endings on that last one. But that's how this one turned out. And kind of like this stand. Makes a little ring when you use it. But again, just trim this one back. Again, these are just a group of cuttings. Not really necessarily a bonsai forest. It's just more of a decorative at this point. And again, hopefully we can get a rounded canopy and denser growth on that. Okay, this is not going to take any time at all to put that back, to repot this. Just going to put a little screening at the bottom of that. Add some of my fine bonsai soil in there. And we're going to take this and just see if we can get that to come out. Give this a little bit of push. And there's a screen in there, I think, somewhere. Oh yeah, this is the one that I use, that kind of like orange crafting mesh. It just falls apart. I'm not even going to worry about that too much. But see, all that, look at all that. That was been growing in essentially maybe a 1/4 inch of soil. And it has lived in there for 2 years. 2 years in 1/4 inch of soil. Now I'm going to give it 2 inches of soil. So this couldn't be easier. And a little more, right about there. This is going to be a 2-minute repot. Again, it's basically a slip potting. Not even worrying about working it in with a tool, because you just kind of like shake it in and let the agitation work the soil down. Kind of overfill a little bit and just and that is that. We now have our little Portulacaria, have got a lot more room to grow, and we used my little, again, another thrift store find. Oh, I forgot that does it. It even has a working, well, a functional antenna, I guess, or a working antenna. Obviously, this isn't a real radio, but you can have it look like one of the old real radios. Again, this is more of when Tom tells you to listen to old radio shows, this is what he listened to them on when he first heard them when he was young. This is what the radios used to look like. And the antenna got you the reception. You had to mess with it a bit. For those of us who grew up in the 70s, 80s, and 90s, yeah, our parents probably had things like this kicking around. Our grandparents definitely did. Yeah, I don't know if we're going to get any old radio shows on here, but it's going to be a good home for this. That's all for now. My wife has already come in here and told me that she has plans for us today, so we're going to be leaving in a little bit. So in the meantime, well, stay cool and happy bonsai.